All right. Well, the Halitics on a Monday, and this is the last Monday of the year. We'll be doing Halitics, and it's great to spend it with the left-handed leftist Carlos. Hey, Carlos, how are you today?
Always glad to be here. Always glad to be here. What's up? How? Doing good on this freezing week of the holiday.
It's not even that cold out. I was just outside. It's actually warmed up a little bit, but it's been cold in the morning. Yeah, but it not too bad. Just outside, and took the dog out, which I'm happy that she's doing better. Carlos, she, I can tell how cold it is by how long she stays outside. So if I leave her out early in the morning, or I let her out, I should say, she goes out, she does her business very, very quickly, and she's right back
I'm done.
at
It's
the
like,
door.
You can be outside yourself. You can enjoy the cold weather. I'll be inside.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going out with her. Are you kidding me? No. She go out, she does her little business there, and then she's back within 30 seconds. But now it's warmed up, and she'll stay out she likes it. You know, she likes the sun. And
I'm perplexed that you consider the 40-degree weather it is outside warming up. To me, that's still freezing. I'm like, all right, cool. Wait till it gets in the 60s. Then I'll be saying, all right, Hal, it's warming up out here.
You don't have a coat of fur, okay? So
yeah,
part of it is she's got a coat of fur and doing well. So we're very pleased.
That's good.
She's struggled. She had a rough early childhood, and so.
How long have you had the dog so far?
We got her in October, early October.
Oh wow, okay, so still new.
2.5 months, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, what do you think about that? So we're spending a lot of money on that dog. We're feeding her. We're buying her toys. We're this. I mean, there's so much need in the world, right? Do you think that's like I've sort of thought about this. Like, I love the dog. I'm glad I'm bringing her home, and we adopted her. It's not like we bought her from a breeder or anything like that. We didn't add to the demand for puppies.
Yeah,
which is, I think, a problem because there's so many of them. But still, I think a fair argument could be made that people rather than pets should be the recipient of people's largesse. So how do you, I mean...
I look at it and say, well, I'll say this. I never grew up with like pets and dogs and cats and all that. So like I already look at it from like a, hey, do you type of thing. I think that it is something to say when you get to like people who talk about how like they would give an animal food before they give a person food. I think that's going a bit far and thinking some people are a little weird. I have a hot take when it comes to pets. Honestly, I think that outside of cats, no other animal really should be a pet just because they're not domesticated type. Like there are wild versions of that pet, and cats are the only animal that domesticated itself to human beings. If you let a dog out, they'll run away and just go away. I think people who keep birds as pets are the oddest thing to me because I'm like, it's literally like something that's meant to fly. We're just going to keep you in this solitary place for your own enjoyment.
Well, I don't like that about birds, right? And they put them in those cages, and then they they cover the cage and the bird goes to sleep. It's kind of weird. I'm with you there, but I don't think that's totally fair for you to say it's only now. Carl's not usually agree, but every now and then we find an area of disagreement, and I'm always going to stick a big wedge in there and just break it apart. So I think dogs domesticate themselves. I mean, this theory behind dogs is that back in the day, 30, 40,000 years ago, some hungry wolves were cold and miserable, and they saw a fire. And they're like, hey, maybe it's a little better over there where we don't have to go fight some sort of like an animal with horns. They've got some food scraps they're throwing behind, they're messy eater, those humans. Let's see if we can go grab some of their food scraps. And so they kind of became man's best friend. So there you go.
Okay, maybe I'll come around to that. I still think.
Do you not like dogs? Maybe you're just not a dog person. Is this like a personal? It's a personal thing. You just don't like dogs.
It probably is. My family, like my immediate family, my mother, my grandmother, we never really. Well, my family never had dogs. Like we never had dogs, cats, any type of pet. My mom swears to me that I had a fish at one point. I don't remember the fish, so I say I didn't have one. But no, that's not true. My mom had a pet bird at one point, and I don't even think they liked the pet bird. It was one of those things. Why do we have this? So what
did the bird talk? Did it say anything?
Yeah, It did.
Oh, it did.
And it made my grandmother mad because it would get out of its cage and start flying around the house. And my grandmother was like a broom trying to hit it and be like, "Look, I'm either going to open a window, let it go, or it's going to die. It's going to get one of the two."
Yeah, but you can't let them
all
go
the
because
PETA people don't say that to don't come in my comment section for all the like pro animal rights PETA people either. Like I don't have time for y'all.
Well, the PETA people would be on your side because I don't think they like people having pets either. But you can't let the bird go because they'll freeze or they can't unless there are some birds can survive
because they're not used to the wild.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing I think is so weird about that we like domesticate pets, and then it's like, hey, you can't survive without us, and then you get like, I feel like it's like a Stockholm syndrome a little bit. Like you're gonna be forced to need me.
I don't know. There's something about, there's humans, people and dogs sort of evolve together, and there's a bond that we have for each other. So I think that's innate, not for everyone, obviously, but so many of us do love our dogs. And so for whatever that's worth. No, I don't feel a lot of guilt. I feel like it's a yes. And yes, you can, be charitable, and yes, you can try to help folks out, and at the same time have a dog that's part of your family. I think that's definitely possible.
Definitely.
All right, this is our last show this year. I'll have a couple more this week. I'm planning to do a show tomorrow, and then probably, although not definitely, but tomorrow. By the way, we have a candidate, Carlos. We have another. I had a candidate last week, Ethan Wechtluck. I thought it was really good, and the short I put together has done really well. So I'm happy about that. We're going to continue to promote Ethan, who's running against Trona McLean Delaney. He's great. He's against, he's pro-Palestine, which is really important. He's pro-Medicare for all, which is really important. So I'm really excited about him. We're going to have Arif Wali tomorrow, who is, I believe I don't know if he's Palestinian. He may be. He is Muslim. He's running for county council here in Montgomery County. So we're going to have him on. Looking forward to that. Then I'll have a show probably Christmas Eve, which would be Wednesday, and then no videos until I'm just taking a staycation. Just going to be at home with my wife. She's off work. We'll just relax. Looking forward to it, Carlos.
Yes, it's awesome. Got some family stuff planned. Actually, it's funny. I'm recording today, but the episode will be out within the next few weeks. I'm recording with Owen Silverman Andrews, the lieutenant governor candidate for the Green Party. So yeah, it's interesting. We're having a candidate today. This week. Right.
Now that's good. I was really I'm believe in abandon Dems whenever possible. But if we have a good candidate in the primary who really, like a Zoran, and we both agree, Zoran far from perfect. He's gotten some heat from some of our favorite podcasters, among others. I think, who never warmed up to him? I don't think Sabby, right? Sabby never liked Zoran.
No. I think after John Fetterman, she was like kind of not trusting this move anymore.
Yeah. And Revolutionary Blackout Network also. Nick's totally against him. I think the Do Dissidents kind of guys, we're just talking about different podcasters who are sort of in the same space both of us are in right now. Yeah. I kind of feel like they got it about where I am, which is not totally on board the Zoran train. We are somewhat suspicious, but he's definitely better than your run-of-the-mill Democrat, and probably on balance will hopefully, if he pursues the policies he says he will, make things a little better for New Yorkers. That's my view anyway. I don't know if that's how you felt, but
yeah, same. I give him almost like a local version of an AOC at this point, of like, hey, you stand for the right things. You may be just weak when it comes to like pushing back against the establishment. But I'm also like, let's see if it takes a turn where actually the establishment people who work within his mayor's office actually bend to him, or does he bend to them, especially like the police chief?
I hope he's better than AOC. I feel like AOC has been just a massive disappointment on a lot of issues, Carlos.
Yeah, she is.
I hope he's a little better, but I don't think that's unfair for you to claim because, for example, the call not to primary Hakeem Jeffries really doesn't sit well with me, and I don't think you like it either.
No, I feel like he should have just stayed out of it and just been like, hey, look, I had a robust primary. Everyone should have a robust primary. It's a democracy. I think that it's going to be incredibly difficult to beat the speaker. You could even say he's popular in his district if you want to throw him some bones, and then leave it at that. don't outwardly just say, do not run against this man. He needs to be the speaker again. And it was funny. I was listening to a TikTok before we got on that was saying, if you were the speaker or the Senate majority leader, and then you lose your majority, why do you become the minority leader or at all when you lost? Now we need someone different who knows how to win again.
Well, they have to have an election. It's not like Jeffries would just automatically be the speaker if the Democrats retake Congress, or will automatically be the minority leader if they don't retake Congress. There'll have to be an election, but there is a lot of inertia. It's very difficult to replace these people. Nancy Pelosi was the Democratic leader for probably 15 years, some crazy long period of time like that. So
but
it is difficult.
You see more of a flip. Like they're like speakers, they flip speakers. Now the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, I give it to them. Mitch McConnell had that on lock, so that's bad. But also, Mitch McConnell was a good Senate majority leader for them and a good minority leader for Republicans.
He was for them. He was bad for the country, but he was. I agree with you. I think he did more. He promoted their agenda much more effectively than Chuck Schumer has or Jeffries has for the Democrats. I guess you can't really. I think Pelosi was politically effective, but I think harmful nevertheless, or because she was so effective, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, 240-24. Let me just start to just interrupt real quick. 240-242-5646. Don't forget, please click like, please click subscribe. Any interaction we want. And with Carlos, I always try to sort of center our state, Maryland. This is a big story we actually talked about last recorded program, which was Friday. Do urge you to check it out. The free state, free for all. The reparations veto override by the Democratic veto-proof majority was a big story, is a big story. And again, I'm going to be real clear about this. I have been skeptical about reparations. I have questions about whether they're the right way to address inequality, but I would have voted to override the veto. I do believe this reparations commission is on balance a good plan. That said, and as we talked about during the before we went on air, there's going to be a white backlash. White people are not going to support reparations because they're money going to a different group than they are. I mean, I think that's sort of human nature. We all like our own tribe best. We don't want money to go to another tribe. And so they aren't going to want money to go to a different tribe. That said, I think there are ways around that. Your response, though, to what I just said, Carlos, I see you scratching your head a little bit. And then let's talk about what Democrats should do, if anything, to respond to white backlash.
Yeah. So I want to start out with, I am not, as we were talking about it before and kind of now I thought about it more, I don't know if there's going to be like this outwardly push backlash to like vote out the people who put it up, or to not vote for Democrats, or whatever people may choose to do. Because I also look and say, when it comes to immigrant justice, we've seen a lot of white people come out as far as like expanding how much money is given towards that that cause, not having ICE, things like that. So I definitely think that there are a good number of white people who will support things out. I'll say support, or at least be like, you know what, it doesn't affect me, whatever, it's already been passed. I think that there is going to be some quote unquote backlash when you get to more like of the conservative members. And I say this just because I think the House, on like a party line basis, all the Democrats voted for the override, and it was just Republicans who voted against it. So I think it's going to like energize Republican base a little bit, but that kind of really doesn't mean much in Maryland when there's only what, 25% of all the registered voters are Republican versus the over 50 or something Democrat. So it really doesn't matter what Republicans think. I do think that this is a good thing that it was overridden. I think it was definitely a political move from Wes Moore, the current governor here, to do this, to try to see, or for a potential president or vice presidential run, or even maybe to use as like fodder against, if quote unquote Hogan comes back to run for governor, maybe to say, hey, he can't use this against me as well. I do think that this should be one thing as well that the Democrats use to say, just because we have a Democrat as governor does not mean he is going to be a progressive person, or even center left at that.
Yeah, well, I think we both agree that a Democratic governor is not necessarily progressive, and there are many counterexamples. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania he's a middle of the road and definitely pro-Israel, although he tries to separate himself a little bit, clearly pro-Israel. And we can go right down the line. Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom. A lot of these guys have good rhetoric, but then when it comes to the actual policies, the actual vetoes that they wield, they frequently, probably more often than not, do what the corporate masters tell them to do. So yes, we agree on that. Carlos, I do think the polling shows pretty strongly that even that white voters generally are overwhelmingly against reparations, and white Democrats are against them by a majority, but not by nearly as large a majority. Let me see. Got this poll here, and it's actually super close. This is a Pew Research poll from, I believe, 21. Let me see if I can get it on screen for folks. Sometimes I struggle a little bit to do that, but I think we can do it right here. This is pretty interesting. It's closer than I thought it was among Democrats in this poll, but other polls suggest that the gap may be a little bigger among white Democrats against it. But here you can see, let me see if I can get this up to you. 77% of Black Americans, compared with 18% of white Americans, support reparations for descendants of enslaved people. And then you can see 91% of Republicans or lean right are opposed, but 49% of Dems, lean Dems, are opposed, 48% support. So it's really pretty much 50-50 among Democrats. It kind of surprised me. That's a Pew poll from 21 that may or may not have changed. It's interesting, though, before we get into more of that, there's a significant minority of Black Americans, Carlos, who say they don't support reparations, which I think mirrors the support Donald Trump got in the last election.
Yeah, it's certain ones who feel like, it's certain people, and even Black people, who feel as though, well, having reparations is, one, just going to amplify the race issues within the country. So let's not do that. Let's not dig up all that up. You have some people who bought into the theory of that happened years, like decades and centuries ago, so we don't need to address it. You also have the theory of people who think that, well, kind of, it is a true theory, but thinking that, like, well, this is going to come from like our tax money anyway, so like I'm going to be the one paying it. And it's like, yes, but there's also other means of paying it too, through taxing corporations, things like that profited off of things like slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, things like that as well. And
let me just cut you off, because that is, and I'll let you get right back into it, but what you just said, the people who should pay the reparations are those who have directly benefited from policies that they pushed that harmed Black communities. That is what the commission is tasked to do here in Maryland. That is exactly what they're tasked to do.
And I think that's the perfect thing because it also shows people that this is not like us just coming after a specific person, like, hey, like, oh, you're a white person, give us all your money because blah 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 blah. It is showing that, like, there's a direct correlation. I think it's also a teaching moment for some people too, to say, oh, I didn't know that this Maryland-based company is only doing so well because at first they used slave labor, or because redlining made it so this real estate firm is so profitable and they're selling these like multi-million-dollar homes and whatnot. And I think there's also going to be a conversation when it comes to how neighborhoods have been gentrified and things like that as well. The one thing, the one thing that I will also say is that I think passing the commission was an easier task than when the commission comes up with like recommendations, and now it's going to be like, let's actually pass those recommendations. I think that's when there's going to be the most pushback and the most fight against it, because you're going to see those same corporations that have benefited from those systemic problems come out and lobby to not have their taxes either increase, have fees put on them, and so forth, like that as well.
My response to this entire debate is yes, African Americans, Black Americans, descendants of slaves have been systematically harmed by policies that government has either pursued or has allowed to have happen. And we need to address that. But there are other people who are also victims of those policies, or even just simply of the kind of rapacious, winner-take-all capitalism that we have been practicing, especially since the 1960s and 70s. So, yes, let's address the inequities that have resulted from racism and from government policies that make life more challenging, harder for Black people. But if we're going to do that and we don't want to alienate other voters, then we need to also address the needs of people who aren't Black. And I don't think the government's done that. And I see you smiling because do you disagree with that? I mean, what's your response to that?
I don't disagree. How I agree with you that yes, we need programs that benefit everyone. These universal anti-capitalist, I would say more socialist programs. It's also odd.
Do you feel like let me cut you off because I want to kind of focus you here. Do you feel like that I overstate the challenges faced by white people in this society? I mean, obviously, I don't face those challenges, but let me put this. I was going to show you a different slide, but I want to show this one first. And I don't know if we talked about this yesterday or last Friday. Show. But if you look at the poorest counties in Maryland, the poorest jurisdictions, so the poorest one is Baltimore City, which is majority Black. But if you go down, Somerset County is majority white, although it has a high Black population. It's on the Eastern Shore. Then you see Allegheny County, mostly white. The poorest city in Allegheny County is Cumberland, Maryland, which is the poorest city in all of the state, and there are Blacks and whites there. You see Washington County, Garrett County. You don't see these are counties with much higher poverty rates than the state, and they have they're mostly white people who live in those counties.
No, you're right. It's a lot of rural whites who are or rural white people who are poor, who are living below the poverty line, stuff like that. It's a lot of black people in like more urban places like a Baltimore City. I will say Maryland is a middle class suburb for the most part. When you come to places like Prince George's, Charles County, I think those are the main two majority Black counties within the state. Well,
is Charles majority? I don't think Charles is majority.
Charles is majority Black. That's my county. How we're the wealthiest Black county in the country.
You're also didn't you tell me was that one of the three wealthiest counties in Maryland, along with Howard and Montgomery, I believe.
I think Prince George's is amongst the wealthiest counties within the state of Maryland. Charles County is the wealthiest majority Black county within the whole country. Yep.
All right.
But my thing, and my thing that I was kind of hesitating on before wasn't because of like the overstating, which I don't believe that you do, of like white people suffering. It's kind of the backlash argument where I never see Black people, we have that same treatment as far as like, oh, we have to do something for Black people, because if it's seen as we're just helping white people or helping immigrant populations, that Black people, they're gonna revolt because we're not helping them. It's always geared towards white people by saying like, oh, by helping Black people, white people, they're gonna feel left out, so then they're not gonna vote a certain way. It's like, okay, why is that only geared towards white people feeling that way? And do white people ever say, you know what, maybe right now this just doesn't affect me? It's something that affects you all because it's something that you all have dealt with. We have other fights that affect them. When we see all these things about rural legacy programs, farm programs and things, those have disproportionately went towards white people, and we don't see this backlash from Black, brown, Asian, all these other races either.
All right, let me respond in a couple ways to that. I think there's definitely truth to what you just said. I think part of the reason that at least I'm talking about this is because a political reality. the programs like affirmative action and you saw DEI programs have definitely empowered Republicans. They've resulted in more people electing Republicans because we live in a majority white society. And whether accurately or not, whether fairly or not, the Democrats have been targeted and painted as the party of minorities. And this has led many people to vote for Republicans, which has caused our country to spiral. Now, I'm not saying we weren't spiraling under Democrats. I have plenty of points to be made at Democrats, too, because I think they didn't champion universal programs. So I think that's part of it. The other, because it's just the political reality. If you're a bigger group and you feel you're not getting a fair share of the pie, whether accurately or not, then you're going to be able to make a bigger impact on politics. So I think that's part of the reason. The other part is I don't totally agree with what you said. I think it's partly true. And this is going to be purely anecdotal, but I remember being on a call, and you may have even been on it, I don't think you were, where it was a bunch of healthcare single payer advocates, and we're talking about healthcare disparities between blacks and whites and disparate outcomes. And there was an African woman on the call. I don't remember her name. I don't remember what group she was with, but she was definitely an influential person. And she said, we have to address healthcare inequities. And until we do, you ain't getting your Medicare for all. And that's purely anecdotal, but I remember that very, very clearly. And I was really appalled by that statement because the best way to address healthcare inequity is to have Medicare for all. But this individual's position was, hey, we're not going to give white people anything. I'm just telling you what she was saying. I'm not giving white people, the black community ain't going to support white people getting anything as long as we're at the bottom of the barrel, because we give you something, we're going to still be at the bottom of the barrel. So I've heard that argument from black activists as well as from, I've heard that we can't give white people something. We can't have universal programs if they benefit white people. So I'm just saying, I've heard it from both groups.
I don't agree with that part to say, hey, we don't want a universal program until we fix the inequities. I do think that there are things that need to be addressed that go along with a universal healthcare program, because yes, we can have universal healthcare. Let's say we had it tomorrow. You still have a lot of doctors who believe that black people have a higher pain tolerance than white people just based off of our race, that our skin is thicker, that we just go through different medical or our symptoms and things are not viewed as credible as other races of people. So we're still going to have those problems. And I think that they can be fixed in tandem with universal healthcare. And probably these are probably problems that are going to last much past actually passing a universal healthcare program. But there was one other point that I did want to make that you said earlier. I think that also it comes from a lack of people knowing how these programs are actually working, because when you look at programs like affirmative action and DEI, most of those help white women who are labeled as minorities. They are labeled as someone who are disadvantaged. When you look at most of the government contracts in the MBE program that's supposed to go to minority businesses, most of those go towards white women. When you look at affirmative action, a lot of white people are actually helped, and also no one had the same issue when it came to legacy admissions, which are also a version of affirmative action. No, you didn't see a big pushback from minority people saying, hey, that's letting in white people, we need to backlash because of that. It was just something that's seen as like, okay, it's accepted because it's a thing that normally happens. I think that it also is going to take white people to look at themselves and say, like, we have been benefiting from these programs, so that someone else coming and having a program that benefits them, we shouldn't just be mad at that. But I can't control people's like psychology and how they think about it.
All right. First of all, I want to just say this is why you should subscribe to Halitics if you haven't yet, because this discussion that Carlson and I are having, which is, I mean, we're definitely pulling punches a little bit. At least I am a little bit, but not much. Yeah. Pretty much saying exactly what I believe. And so we're having black, white, we're disagreeing about reparations. You're not going to see this in other podcasts. hosts are always going to be targeting their audiences, trying to say what they think their audience capture. And people always dance around this issue. We're not doing that. So this is why I think you should subscribe to Halitics, among many other reasons. It's also why you should call in 240-242-5646 and share your opinion. So I was thinking about a lot of things that you just said, Carlos, and this is why I support more than reparations, more than affirmative action, more than anything, is I support universal programs. Why I say everyone should have enough and no one should have too much. I agree with you. There's fights like how to get into Harvard, and should we have preferences for people from certain groups? Is it right that that alumni children have big advantages? Should, for example, now I read a story that said that white men are now getting advantaged because 45% of applicants to Ivy League schools are men. So it's not even just white men, it's men. But the percentage of men who are applying to these schools is significantly lower than the percentage of women. But the admissions offices want relatively equal numbers of men and women, which means if you're a man and you apply, you're more likely to be admitted, right? The percentage of men admitted is higher than women. Now, I don't know. I'd have to look more closely. What about the SATs? Are the men admitted with lower SAT scores, lower GPAs? Apparently, their SATs are pretty similar. The GPAs, girls do better in high school. Let's just face it. In general, girls are better students in high school than boys. I don't know if that's the case at the top. So you can parse it all different ways. People are going to fight. People want and always are going to fight for their, as I said, I believe, we can disagree on this, their tribe. You're always going to put your tribe first. You're always going to put your first my family, then my village, then my county, so you always put your own people first. The way to address that, I think, is you say everyone gets enough, no one gets too much. You go to Harvard, yeah, maybe you live a little better than the person who goes to Prince George's Community College, but not that much better, just a little bit better. You're just a little bit more. You have a job, you're a tech bro, you're some great coder. Yeah, you live better. You get to eat at better restaurants. Maybe you get 2 houses, you don't get 10, right? That's where I'm coming from. And I think a lot of these fights are because the rich have taken such a huge piece of the pie and just left scraps for everyone else. So I think if we redistribute it fairly, you'll have far less of these arguments.
Oh, same.
So if you go to HBCU, we talked about this, I thought it was really good. If it's true that Trump is prioritizing funding for HBCUs, that actually is one of the few good things he's doing that we can point to. I agree, but people who go to HBCUs sadly don't make, they live less well. Graduates from Grambling or Maryland Eastern Shore are not going to make as much money as graduates from Johns Hopkins or Columbia, and that's not right. But it's just, or maybe a little difference is okay, but not many millions of dollars is indifferent.
No, you're
so
right.
That's really where I come from. And the final point, I do think that universal single-payer health coverage would address. It wouldn't solve what you were talking about, how doctors perceive blacks as differently than whites and that they have different, pain tolerances. It's also just because the challenges that black Americans face are, in general, of course, with many exceptions, different and often worse, more challenging than whites do. But again, if you had universal single-payer health coverage, you have more doctors in black communities because they'd all be making a living, they'd all be making enough money. We also have to address shortage or the relative smaller number of black doctors that needs to be addressed. So there's a lot of ways to address it, but I do think single-payer health coverage wouldn't solve the problem that you're describing, but I definitely think it would help us address it.
No, definitely. And I also think on top of that, we're going to have universal, or not universal, but free public colleges and universities too, because you're going to see a lot more black people become doctors because you don't have the high financial barrier that goes along with it. So that once you get out of school, if you have if you have a $200,000 student loan debt, you're not going into like a low income community to be a doctor. You're going into a private practice. You're going into some speciality so that you can make as much money as you want. And it was funny because I had a podcast a while ago talking about Cuba and their healthcare efforts, and they actually make every doctor, it's totally free to become a doctor, but they make every doctor have to take up a part of their, like, I guess, schooling is you have to work in like a general practice area in a low income neighborhood or just in a community hospital. So you first start out with the mindset of like, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to help people first. So I definitely think that just expanding who becomes a doctor, but I also think it has to deal with also the United States getting over the big racial issue or the big racism problem within the country. And I think that also expands off of capitalism as well. The fact that you have the capitalists and the big corporations and the wealthy, they are excited to put Black people against white people and other races against each other, because then people start focusing on them. I think that there is one thing that is going to be decided on when there is this big working class fight together is, do we see it repeat the mistakes of the FDR era, where you had white people get these universal programs, and then when it came to other races getting them, it was like, oh yeah, I forgot about, domestic workers not getting social security, or like Black veterans not getting the GI Bill. It's like there has to be a sort of we're all going to get this together at the same time, not just, hey, we get this.
Agreed. But I would note that some of the FDR policies that were watered down when it came to jobs that were predominantly Black American were not always, but often were redressed. And the GI Bill did also allow many Black veterans to get jobs, and Social Security ultimately was expanded. We had, I did a report, an article about this. Even before the repeal of Jim Crow laws, even before the civil rights movement was successful to the extent it was, partially successful, the wealth and income disparity between Blacks and whites was shrinking by the mid-1950s, and it reached its lowest level after the civil rights bills were passed. It's grown. So, and this was a point that Coleman Hughes made. He's a Black conservative who argues against, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he argues against affirmative action, DEI policies. He makes the point that despite affirmative action, despite 60 years now, in some cases, the wealth and income gap has actually risen. So it hasn't solved the problem it's designed to solve. It's actually made things worse. Or it hasn't made, let me say it differently. I said that wrong. It hasn't necessarily made things worse, but things have gotten worse despite those policies.
No, you're definitely right. And I think one of my biggest things have been, and I'm kind of, as I'm doing more like reading and just talking to family and stuff, is that when it came to like integration, I believe the government kind of forcing people to integrate the way it did may not have been very it may have kind of put us in this situation where you had, all right, cool, Black people, we were segregated, we weren't, everything was supposed to be equal, but what was it, separate but equal. The problem is it wasn't equal. White people, hey, were given more the funding, more of the better government support than Black people were. The problem is when the fight to integrate started, it wasn't an equal fight. It wasn't also Black people going to white businesses, white people going to Black businesses. It was Black people going to white businesses and white people still going to white businesses. So now you just had a decrease in how much money is just circulating within Black communities and businesses as well. And then I was also watching a documentary recently that was talking about when Brown v. Board of Ed started. A lot of Black people did not support that. They said, we don't want to be integrated into schools. We just want our school funding.
We want equal. We are okay with separate if we have equal. That was some people's position. And I ultimately think we should have integration. I do. I mean, I don't believe in separate but equal. I do believe in equal. and integrated. But what you ultimately had was, in many cases, neither. Because in fact, as I understand, I could be wrong about this, Carlos. Maybe you know better than I do. You probably do. I don't know. But many southern villages and towns before the repeal of Jim Crow laws actually were relatively integrated. Black and white people did live close to each other. You had black farmers, more than we do now, and they would live close to each other. They didn't go to the same schools. Like you said, the black people were poorer. They lived, their houses weren't as nice. They had much less access to government services, but they lived close to each other in many cases. Once the civil rights laws were passed in Brown versus Board of Education, white people said that none of that. If I'm going to live next to a black person and their kid is going to go to my school, well, I'm moving. And they did. And then there was no real estate taxes that would have funded because the black people were poor. They didn't have access to good jobs. They were discriminated against and the like. So it might have actually been, as you said, if you're going to do, all deliberate speed, use the time for all deliberate speed to make the services that we provide to black members of our community much better. Same with swimming pools, right? You had municipal pools that only white people could go to. Once they said, hey, the black people get to go to those pools, they say, okay, we'll close the pools and we're going to go join private country clubs. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to have, I don't want a black pool and white pool. I want everybody's pool, but it didn't work out. I hear what you're saying.
I go to it as like, yes, I think living in modern day now, we all look at like, of course we needed integration. It should have happened. My personal view, and this may be a hot take, is that I view that integration should have been a natural thing that happened. It should have been once everyone started to see each other as equal, then we just start naturally integrating. But I think the government telling people you will integrate into whether you like it or not, you give people that sense of, I don't like being told what to do because the American view of capitalism. But then also it is a sense of, I never saw you as equal. So now you going to the same school as my children, you going to the same pool as me. I still don't see you as equal. I'm just forced to be around you. And I think that's why we have a lot of the racial issues, or not a lot, but I think that plays into some of the racial problems that we have, is because you have people who feel like I'm just forced to be around black people. I don't see you as the same as me. And that's why we have a lot of neighborhoods that are still segregated. You have a lot of schools that are still segregated. Churches are one of the main segregated places. And
but I thought like those mega churches, a lot of them are integrated. Are they not? Am I wrong about that? The
mega churches are, a lot of people really don't go to, or you have a good number of people go to mega churches, but when you go to like your like local churches and things, you have a black church, you have a white church, like you have a very separation. Like I can say this, as long as I've been going to church, I don't think I've ever seen more than 2% of white people at a church before that I've gone to, because they just don't go to our church. We don't go to their church. It's just very separated. And I think that if we want to come to a fully part of like integration, I think we're going to have to go to people actually seeing each other as people. And I just don't know how you get to that point at this
I was going to say, how do you do that? If you don't have government policies that force people to come together, how do you get them to come together? Because they ain't going to come together. Yeah. I'm a big believer, again, when we talk about, I don't believe in separate. I do believe in equal. And the way I always say, everyone has enough, no one has too much. I think one way to push that way, and we are not seeing, because our elected officials in the end are more comfortable with race-based redress than they are with aggressively reducing wealth and income inequality. I really truly believe that, because rich people are like, yeah, fine, we'll throw a few shekels to those poor black people, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to change the ultimate, dynamic, which is we have more than everyone else, and we get to keep making more and keep aggregating more, and that's what you see. So this bill, which again, I just want to show it what the Maryland legislature will not pass, will not vote on, is this here: Public Health Commission on Universal Health Care, establishing a commission on universal health care. So this is a lot like what the reparations bill did. We'll create a commission, They'll investigate the best way to make health care available to all Marylanders. But you'll see what happened to that bill, just like what happened to another bill we're going to talk about. By the way, Governor Moore doesn't support this, didn't support reparations. And you can see here, this is what happens that bill in 24. It ends, referral to committee, dies in committee. Nothing happens. Yep. Nobody has any hearings. Maybe they have like one
the main discussion. Hearing, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's sad, but then also I'm not surprised by Wes Moore, because Wes Moore was the main person, or the person who called. He did he did what Obama did during the 2024 primary. He called all those different Central Committee members in Annapolis, let them know, do not vote for Chrissy Holt to take Shanika Henson's seat, and cost her that seat, because he knew Chrissy Holt is the top fighter when it comes to universal health care within the state, and did not just want her advocacy in the House of Delegates.
Absolutely right. And I've had Democrats say that's not what happened, but it's exactly what happened.
Yeah, they're legit articles that say from the Central Committee members, I was going to vote for her until Wes Moore called me and said I shouldn't vote for her anymore. I mean, all right.
But I am happy to put some of the blame on Wes Moore, but Wes Moore also vetoed reparations, and the Democrat caucus overrode that veto. They wouldn't even vote. I mean, it's not just Moore, it's the actual Democratic majority, veto-proof majority, that won't even pass it out of committee. No. And this is what most Marylanders want.
Yeah, because they're listening to what Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Aetna, and all the other healthcare insurance companies thinking, well, we're just going to keep taking money from them, which is also why I was kind of irritated when I saw the Maryland Democratic Party post that video with Chris Van Hollen talking about how, we need Medicare for all in the country. It's like, okay, that's great. You say that now that Trump's president, you have a Republican for the Republicans control the House and Republicans control the Senate. We have a supermajority in the state and control all three, or we control the state Senate, the House of Delegates, and the governor's mansion. Why don't we support a universal health care commission here?
All right, here's something else Wes Moore doesn't support. And by the way, I want to reinforce this theme. The theme here is how Democrats can broaden their appeal. I make the argument, Carlos may disagree a little bit with this. I think he doesn't actually disagree, but I make the point that the Reparations Commission, I support it, but it is divisive. It will pit working class people against each other by virtue of their race. We're talking now, I'm trying to focus on ways to address that problem, to bring people together, because that's what I'm trying to do, bring people together in support of policies that reduce wealth, income, and equality. Voting against, refusing to have hearings on, refusing to pass or consider a universal health care commission is a problem that will not address the interracial resentments. This is a little tougher. What about BDS? Do you think, and I'm, because my sense is the Black community isn't necessarily that staunchly in support of Israel. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that by Moore continuing the same policies that his predecessor, Republican Hogan, did when it comes to BDS, I think that is divisive. I think that he is making it harder to bring communities together that should be natural allies on economic issues. But that's a tougher argument to make, I think, Carlos.
100%. I think, well, first of all, you don't have a strong sense. Black people have a historical sense, especially when you go to the civil rights movement, of supporting Palestine. I think that you also have the total opposite, where you have Black politicians a lot of time have a strong history of supporting Israel. So I think there's that problem, but I also think that this is Wes Moore's way to one, fight off Republicans, maybe, but I think his main thing is not trying to catch the ire of the Israeli lobby group. Now, I know that AIPAC only gives to federal candidates, but there are local versions of AIPAC who dabble in state programs. I bet you if Wes Moore was out loud talking about anti-BDS or pro BDS, but also stopping the Israeli partnership, I bet you then he would receive their hatred. I also think this is Wes Moore looking to be the next president or vice president. He's like, how can I just coddle up to who's the most powerful? And Israel is the most powerful lobby group / de facto state in the United States.
Yeah, I think this is clearly kowtowing to a minority of very wealthy Marylanders and also Zionists around the country. Because like you said, he sees himself as a national politician. I know he goes up to New York State to raise money from Wall Street. He made his money, that is Governor Moore did, on Wall Street. So he sees himself as a national figure. He wants to raise money. There's a lot of wealthy Zionists, and he's got them foremost in his mind, not what most Marylanders want, nor what is best, what is the right, what is just. So it's very, very frustrating. I think it really upsets people. I show here, this is legislative bill, House Bill 1460 in 25 this year, and I'm trying to figure out who the sponsors are. So a young, I'm not sure who that is. Gabe Acevero is a Black Latino. Black Latino. Ashanti Martinez is a Black Latino. I'm not sure who Austin is. I think they're all four color legislators of color, actually.
Yes.
And they are saying, we don't want this BDS, anti-BDS law. We want to be able to have business relations. The state of Maryland should be able to do business with companies that, for moral reasons, won't do business with Israel. And Governor Moore says no. And
I can give you the names of those people too. You have Kalen Young, who comes out of Baltimore.
Right. He's black. He's black, by the way.
Gabriel Acevero, who is Black and Latino, who comes out of Montgomery County. You have Tiffany Alston, who is a Black woman. I'm not sure what county she comes out of, though. And then you have Ashanti Martinez, who comes out of Prince George's, Black and Latino man as well.
And Moore made it absolutely clear he was against this. Now you see this legislation here, which I strongly support. Okay, strongly support. I do work sometimes with Jewish Voice for Peace. They support it. So it's multiracial. Jewish Voice for Peace, mostly white people who are Jewish, support this law, which says no. You are allowed to say that you are against Israel. You are allowed to say we will not do business with Israel and still get contracts with the state of Maryland. But Governor Moore has told Jewish lobbyists, I support it. I support a ban on anybody who's against Israel from doing business with Maryland. And that's just wrong. So he has taken another position here, which is divisive, which is making it harder for people to unite in support of economic justice.
Yeah, Wes Moore's a Zionist. He is someone who supports the state of Israel, and whether he comes out and publicly says it or not, his actions do.
Yeah, but Carlos, I'm not going to just totally put it on Moore, because look at this. What happened to this bill? Just like what happened to the Healthcare Commission bill. Dies in committee. Nothing.
Yeah, you're right. And it shows the levers of power within the state legislature, state legislature, where you have these powerful committee chairs who control what passes through committee and what doesn't. And you also have a lot of lobbyists who are entangled with these people. And I'm sure the Zionist lobby is just as strong as the developer lobby within the General Assembly, just as strong as the healthcare lobby.
Yeah, I heard you start to say the Jew, and then you said Zionist. But that's really important, because people are saying, "Oh, there's all this anti-Semitism. There's all this there are more attacks on Jewish people. We are seeing that, but it's because so many Jewish people are aligning themselves completely with Israel, and it tends the attacks. For example, even the Bondi Beach, that Chabad Lubavitch is incredibly aggressive in promoting the West Bank settlements, the colonization of the West Bank. Now, does that mean everyone who was at that picnic who got shot is guilty? No, but it means that there's going to be innocent bystanders who are killed because of the policies that Israel is promoting. And it's very understandable. It's very unfortunate. I just want to tie a bow around this one more time because, again, my point is this. If your lodestar is reparations, if you're a whether black, white, Asian, whatever, doesn't matter. If your view is, hey, we live in a profoundly unjust society and I see that injustice cut between races, not across racial lines, but between them. I believe the biggest problem we face in society is the poverty, the impoverishment of black people as a result of enslavement. If that's your view, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. What I'm going to say to you, though, is this. If you are really committed to true racial justice, then you also have to commit to economic justice across across racial lines. You have to say everyone needs to have enough. Everyone needs to have health care. It's not enough to simply say, I'm going to fight for more money to go to black people. We need to have a system where every single person has dignity, has enough.
I agree with that. And I'll even take it farther. Even if you don't care about other races of people and other groups of people, just your group getting funding and getting a extra $5 million is not going to do anything on the grand scheme of things. You're going to need these like systematic changes, which are going to have to be universal programs.
That's right. I agree with that. All right, 240-242-5646. We're going to go for a little longer. I don't know if Carlos has to leave, but I just wanted to put this story up. You mentioned this, by the way. This is a story you mentioned, and we didn't really get a lot of time to talk about it, but I really just wanted to focus on it, at least for a brief period of time. We aren't going to talk about Nick Fuentes today. We just don't have enough time. I was sort of hoping we'd get to the video where I think he kind of makes himself look a little better than a lot of people would think, kind of humanizes him, but I'm not going to do that.
Look at him getting the Candace treatment.
He's friends with her, right? They're friends, aren't they?
They're not.
No.
I wouldn't say friends. He's been on either her podcast or she's been on his, and they talked about the problems that they had before. I don't think they're friends because I also think Nick Fuentes is racist. So he probably like, I don't view you as fully my friend, but
well, he's alleged to be. But then you know what? I was going to go after Ken Martin, but let me just play this clip real quick where I think. Yes, Nick Fuentes, everyone, especially supposed to be anti-Semitic, hates Jews. But this clip here, there's somebody I really can't stand, to be honest with you. And by the way, what's with that dyed hair? What is with the, do you think that Crystal likes that? Is that why?
I have no idea with them. I'm not a Kyle Kalinske fan either. I kind of fell off. He got, the moment he gave Jill Stein like a fake endorsement, but then went around to like vote for Kamala Harris, I was kind of like, all right, cool. I see where
By the way, I want to take a lot of credit for that. I exposed that because do you remember she was claiming she was endorsed by Kalinske? Brianna Joy Gray did a program recently where she said that Kalinske endorsed Jill Stein, and he did not. And I made it very, very clear. And I played the clip right through. And for some reason, people don't want to admit it. I know I can't stand Kalinske, but I want to play this clip real quick then because it's mostly Fuentes, actually. Here we go.
Segment from Nick Fuentes about Trump. Watch.
Forget for a moment that we are in a war. Someone gets murdered by their son. It's a horrific tragedy.
So he's talking about what he's talking about here is the whole Rob Reiner thing, and he's going after Trump. So he's saying the first thing. Now, the reason I think that I give Fuentes more credit than maybe other people would. Rob Reiner is Jewish, and Fuentes is supposed to be this horrible Jew hater, and maybe he is. I don't know all of his videos, but what he has to say about Rob Reiner doesn't sound anti-Semitic to me.
Someone gets murdered by their son. It's a horrific tragedy. This is a horrible story. And nobody deserves that. I don't care what their politics are, what they said on the internet or on television. Nobody deserves to be murdered, stabbed to death with their wife by their own son, who they tried to help, and their best friend discovers a corpse. It's despicable. And it's despicable to make fun of that. And I do think that, look, somebody like George...
So he's calling out Trump, because remember, Trump was blaming Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. I mean, whatever else you think about Nick Fuentes, whatever else you think about Candace Owens, I said Candace Parker's a basketball player, Candace Owens, the right seems to have really, really popular influencers who will go after Republicans. Where are the popular Democratic influencers who will go after Democrats? Kalinske barely even does that.
No. Well, I mean, also, I think because Candace and Nick Fuentes have been kind of shunned by their party, I think that's why you see more of that. And it almost seems like when Republicans get shunned by their party, or at least the main establishment part of their party, they go out against the establishment. When Democrats get shunned by the establishment wing of the party, they try to fold themselves back into the establishment to be like,
Van
hey,
Jones.
Van
Jones was like totally persona non grata because he signed some petition saying we need to get to the bottom of 9/11. Mm-hmm. And he spent the next 25 years begging, or 20 years begging to be let back into the good graces of these corporate elites who are the monsters. It's very disappointing. Excuse me. I wish we had more outspoken leftists, but that, of course, gives me a lane to do my podcast, of course. All right. By the way, this is totally irrelevant. I don't know if you know the answer to it, but is Fuentes Latino? Like, because it sounds like a Latino name.
A white man.
Is he?
Just a white. I don't know what he is. What? Maybe Italian? I don't know.
I think there's some.
That does sound a little like mixed of something, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a family type of last name. I don't know. The way he talks about everyone, I wouldn't think he's anything but white. But
he's certainly a xenophobe. But
yeah.
All right, let's play a little more. Let's play this, and then I also want to get the response because Kalinske totally misreads what Fuentes says, in my opinion.
Old age at the very end, and you talk about his political legacy. That's one thing. Some guy, some producer, some civilian dies at the hands of his kid. It's such a grisly situation. It is objectively awful to make fun of that. Now, if Trump were...
Right, one more point. Remember, Reiner's Jewish. If this guy's such an anti-Semite, why is he expressing sympathy for a dead Jewish man? I mean...
Yeah.
All right, I'll play some more. Now it's because it supports his argument, right? His argument is Trump's a loud and an ass.
Now, if he didn't support his argument, he'd be like, well.
But I still think we have to look at people, even on the right, like this, with that there's some nuance there. It's not all good or bad.
Actually doing what he promised to do, you could overlook the fact that he's a douche.
So this is what Fuentes is saying. He's really pissed off at Trump for being so crude and obnoxious. Not that Fuentes isn't, but he's gonna make this point about Trump, which I think is an excellent one, by the way.
Of old age at the very end, and you talk about his political legacy. That's one thing. Some guy, some producer, some civilian dies at the hands of his kid. It's such a grisly situation. It is objectively awful to make fun of that. Now, if Trump were actually doing what he promised to do, you could overlook the fact that he's a douchebag.
No, I totally agree with that statement. Now, I hate Trump. And if Trump is doing, I think, what he promised to do. But if we had Obama was the opposite of Trump. Cool, calm, collected. But his policies were bad. I wouldn't care very much if Trump, if he was like a fanny grabber and all that, like an Andrew Cuomo. If I would care a little, but if it wasn't my fanny, I wouldn't care that much. But he was passing universal health care, right? If we had Medicare for all, and we had peace, and he bailed out the victims of the big banks, not the big banks themselves. I'd be like, well, that sucks. I'm sorry. He was a fanny grabber. Sue his ass, whatever. It wouldn't be good, but it would be a hell of a lot better than what we have now. And Fuentes is saying, look, Trump sucks,
argument.
But
like to me, it's kind of the Marion Barry argument. I don't care what he does in his personal life as long as he's a good mayor. Like, I don't care if he wants to do any type of drugs. You want to do whatever you want in your personal life. I don't care what you're doing. Are you taking care of myself and the other people in your district? And I think that's where Trump messed up because, one, Trump is a symbol for them. So he does the rhetorical part for them. They love that. It's the actual now. It's like, all right, cool. Now you're in office. Where are the policies that we want behind it? They're not getting that. So now there is backlash. And I'm bringing it back to the Democratic Party because I think the Democratic Party does this poorly, where at least the Republicans get the rhetorical wins of like the rhetoric. Democrats will run on all this stuff, all this progressive legislation, or even watered down progressive legislation, win office, don't do that, but then also don't give you the rhetorical wins of like rhetoric either. It's just all losses. To me, I still think it's insane that you still have Democrats running around saying that when they get in office, they're going to put a Republican in their cabinet, as if that's supposed to make Democrats happy. Like who is this for? Republicans would never be caught dead saying that.
Well, where's the Democrat in Trump's? I guess he would say Tulsi, right? She was a Democrat. She's not now, though. She wasn't when he appointed
She's
her.
an independent now, and I think even if she ever referred to herself as a Democrat, as like I'm the Democrat in his office, I think he would get rid of her. I think he would get rid of RFK. They tried to like put themselves as like, yeah, I'm a Democrat still and all that. No, I think that so we don't get the rhetorical wins. We don't get the policy wins, because even think Joe Biden ran on a public option. He stopped that. Joe Biden restarted student loan payments. Joe Biden also ended the quote unquote pandemic help when it comes to unemployment, ended the child tax credit. What is abortion got repealed during
Joe
his
Biden
presidency.
did some really had some really bad policies, and Kalinske supported him. Kalinske supported, well, first Marianne Williamson, the primary, but then he was a big Kamala supporter.
He was
during the general election run up. So he, unlike Fuentes, did not call out the bad policies of the Democrats. And Fuentes is saying here, listen, I think it's pretty funny. It's all right, you're a douchebag, but at least you're doing what you promised us, but you're not. And so I want to play more of that, because I think Kalinske has it completely wrong here.
That he's vain, that he's a narcissist, that he's tactical but not strategic. You could overlook all these things if he was bringing home the goods. That was kind of the deal in 2016. You said, we don't love everything about Trump, but you know what? We're willing to accommodate. It's an acquired taste, but it's okay because he's doing all these other things. Well, what's actually the pitch now? We get nothing. We get no concessions. There are no deportations that we have.
Now that's ridiculous, because obviously Trump has been very aggressive with immigration. Although the truth is, Joe Biden deported more people than Trump, at the same period of time in their presidency.
I want to know why, because we see so many deportations happening, and it's not just people who are quote unquote committing crimes. It's also people who are just like, your next door neighbor. How are deportations? So like, I think we as a public do not know the full extent and grasp of what Obama and Joe Biden did as far as deportations.
Well, Hillary did support a family breakup policies when she was Secretary of State. And when she was running for, she said, yeah, well, if you bring your kids in illegally, or if you have kids here, you're an illegal. She used that term. I don't like that term, but you're here illegally and you have a kid.
We keep your
the kid's a citizen. They can stay, but you got to go. I mean,
oh my gosh. So I think that there definitely needs to be a autopsy done, but as we see, the Democratic Party does not like autopsies.
We were going to talk about that. That was the other story I was going to get to, but we'll leave that for maybe next year. But let me just continue this for. So Fuentes says, there's no deportations.
Now, if he was actually doing mass deportations, then it would be fine for him to make fun of a guy who got murdered by his own son after he fucking tried to help.
So that's just not what Fuentes said. What Fuentes said is it's not okay, but at least if we had the policies in place, it would, we'd be okay with him, not with doing that. So see, this is where Kalinske completely misreads Fuentes' point. Fuentes' point is we elected him to do things, he's not doing them, and he's a complete douchebag. It would, he's saying that being the douchebag is using his term, not mine. It wouldn't be okay, but we could overlook it, because we're getting what we want. And that's the Marion Barry argument. And that's my argument for Obama. Obama was just the opposite. He was appropriate. His behaviors were impeccable, his good manners. But
people would have probably liked him more if he was a little ruder and meaner and got things passed and got things done. But because you can't be nice in politics and also get things done. It seems like those are just diametrically opposed views. But also, I mean, people are willing to overlook a lot if they feel like their material conditions in life are just better. And I think that because we're stuck in a place now that the only wins that people ever see are these culture war rhetorical wins, I think people are just less, like, people are starting to care a little bit less, because I know the whole trans thing is big for you and stuff. I feel
it's
like
not that it really isn't. It's just it's something that the Democrats are on the, I think, on the wrong side of the issue to a degree, not 100%, but to agree. But who cares? It wouldn't matter to people so much if their material conditions were being addressed, and they're not.
Everyone had free healthcare and everyone had like good housing and good jobs and stuff. People, honestly, with the small percentage of trans people in the country, people would honestly be like, I don't care at this point. Like, I don't care. Just let them do whatever. Figure out some way where it's like fair for all the people. It's only less than 2% probably that are in these sports. People would just figure something out rather than it being this like big conversation and topic. Is because both parties have made everyone believe you will never get anything economically, so all you have are culture wars to win.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, Carlos, because I was talking to a parent. I'm going to try really hard not to identify anybody. Talking to a parent of a trans kid recently, and they expressed an interest in being a guest on Halitics. So in the new year, this parent will join us, and they, as far as I could tell based on our conversation, and they were pretty clear, agree with me on the issues.
Really?
They agree with respect to whether trans girls should be competing in sports against biological girls. That's not appropriate. They share my view, even though their child is trans. So we will have that conversation in the new year, and people may be interested in it. But yes, I think people would be willing to say, okay, well, my biological daughter didn't get the gold medal because a trans girl, biological male, defeated them. It's not fair. I don't like it. It's not right. But the fact that she's not going to get a scholarship isn't that important to me, because college is now affordable for all. She can still compete. It's not great. I wish they didn't let the trans girl compete in the girls' event. But, my life is still better. We still have universal health coverage. Even if I lose my job, I'm not in danger of losing my house because of some, rapacious bank raised rates. So, okay. So, yeah, that's kind of where I come down on that.
Okay. Yeah. I'll say I kind of agree with that. I do think that less people will just care in general. Me personally, I've never given too much thought to the trans women in cis women sports and all that. I just don't really, it seems like a low kind of like a low stakes argument for me. Like, it's not a lot of these things.
Dude,
that happen,
I'm going to really push back. If you were a girl and you were working your butt off since you were like 8 because you were talented, you were like really good at a particular sport, and then somebody that used to be a boy comes into the race and beats you, how would it be not an important issue to you?
So I'll say this. What's the difference between it being a transgender woman to it being a cis woman who is just body makeup is just bigger? Because remember when the boxer, there were all those speculations that like, oh, she was actually a biological man and all that. It's like, no, just her body chemistry.
No, she is. The two Olympic boxers that won the gold medals, I believe both actually are biological males.
Wait, so I thought it came out that they weren't, like that they were biological. So what sport was that? Remember there was that big thing about how there was how she was a biological woman, but then people were saying, oh no, she's actually a biological male. I think that this whole kind of discourse, there's a separate conversation that's not happening of, do we need to just change how we determine who's eligible for what sport or not who is eligible, but like who plays against who? Because maybe instead of it just being gender, is that too broad? Should it be people competing against people with similar body makeup or like body like what is it, physics or whatever the hell you want to call it?
I think people recognize. Let's not get too into this, but I'll finish my response and then you can have the final word. I'll be happy to give it to you. I think when we watch, let me say it about me, because I don't know how much. I might be wrong about this, Carlos, but I don't think you're as much of a spectator sport consumer as I am. I watch sports on TV. I like to watch football. I like to watch, although less so now because I hate to see people get hurt. I hate to see that. There are always people hurt playing football. But I still like to watch it. It's still exciting. These guys are so good. It's just to see people jumping up in the air and they're catching balls and the way quarterback throwing a ball 60 yards. I mean, it's unbelievable what these people can do. They're so athletic. Same thing. Basketball, I love those sports. Golf, guys hitting the ball 350 yards. It's unbelievable that they can do that. And I know because I play these sports and it's like they're so far out of like what I can do. I think there's something that for me, and I think for many other consumers of spectator sports, we want to see the absolute best at the game competing against each other. We want to see the people who are better than anyone else. So if I'm watching the NBA, I'm like, oh my God, these are the best basketball players in the entire world. Now, if you did it by body type, if you said, well, it's not really fair because Nikola Jokic is 7 feet tall, and so he has a big advantage over, Hal Ginsberg. What? No, I want to see the guys who have the advantage. I want to see the guys who are the best.
Hold up. Do you look at it like boxing, where they put people in weight classes? So yes. You do have so couldn't you see sports being certain sports like swimming or the whole swimming thing? Why wouldn't we just put up people who have the same kind of body mass, whatever it takes to be a good swimmer? All y'all are in one competition together. All the people in the next rung who are maybe shorter people, you're in one competition with each other. Like doing it that way so it is more even, like boxing.
Well, I think boxing, that a guy who weighs 200 pounds is going to be able to crush a guy who weighs 130 pounds, right? I mean, that's why you have to have those different categories. But as I understand, I could be totally wrong about this. If a woman were able to compete against a man who was the same size and weight as she was, or the same weight as she was, she could. I don't know that men's boxing in the Olympics, and maybe boxing is purely by sex. I don't know. But many sports, women are allowed to compete. A woman who could play in the major leagues baseball, she could compete. If a woman could strike out a major league baseball player, she would be in the major leagues. But there's none who can. There's no rule that says women can't play in the major leagues. They're just the biological fact that they can't. They just can't throw hard enough. They can't swing fast enough. They don't have the muscle mass to do that. So that's why there aren't women in the major leagues. There was a woman in the 1980s who competed for spot in the NBA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the Indiana Pacers. I forget her name. And she just couldn't do it. She didn't have the skill set. And to date, no woman has been able to compete against men at the top echelons. So that's why I don't see how we should be allowing people who have those physiological advantages as males to compete against females.
I will say there is one historical, example of a woman beating a man, which was Billie Jean King back in the 1970s, who beat, what is his name, Bobby Riggs. They had like a battle of the sexes tennis match, and it was kind of tied to like equal pay for like women who did tennis and things like that. I think in certain sports that, yes, definitely you can have like men and women compete. I do think it's also other sports, probably like boxing, which are like, hey, I don't know who wants to take that on.
Billie Jean King was 25 years younger than Riggs. He was an old man. She was a young woman.
Well,
and also, at least there's been some stories coming out, may not be true, that Riggs was in big debt. This guy was a major gambler. He owed a lot of money to the mob, so he threw the match.
Oh, to win the residual
to give it. So because he bet on him, he bet against himself. Now that we don't know if that's true, but Billie Jean King could not have defeated the top male tennis players. And just one more point on this. There was a big debate in the House, I believe, about this very issue. And a representative said, well, Serena Williams is good enough at tennis to beat the men. And so then that was juxtaposed with a video of Serena Williams saying,
no,
I couldn't get a point off of Andy Murray. It's a totally different game. They hit the ball harder. There's more spin. They're faster. No.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think that's the point ultimately that I hang my hat on.
I say that. I think it's definitely some, and where I'll put my hat on is I think it's certain competitions that don't matter about gender as much, depending on just what the sport is, and don't hold me to that now because I'm not thinking about like bowling. I feel like bowling, who should care? But
if you were a bowler, you'd care.
I feel like you're about to tell me, like, actually, no.
Yeah, no. If you were a bowler, you'd care. But
it just seems like a sport that doesn't matter.
Well, it's how hard. But when you roll the ball, the harder the ball goes, the more likely you're going to knock down all the pins.
Well, never mind, Hal. I don't know.
There's some sports, like long distance, really, really, really long distance running, like 60-mile runs and stuff, because women tend to have more stamina.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's also, but again, okay, let's just face it. Men are stronger, faster, quicker on average. There's of course a million. There's women. Are you kidding me? Me playing tennis against Serena Williams would be more embarrassing for me than it would be for her to play Annie Murray. But
it's about how much you train and stuff like that. But then, so where do you see the civil rights issue though come in with this? Because I look at it as, all right, I understand it from a sports mindset of like, hey, it's not fair to the other cis women or to other people who can't compete. I look at it also, well, what's the civil rights issue then? Because do we just have trans women competing against biological men? Does it go by like how much estrogen you have in your system, your body mass index?
I would go by sex. I would go by sex at conception. I really would. I think that is where I would draw the line. Is whatever sex you are at conception is it. Well, no, if you're a female, you can compete against men, but if you're a male, you cannot compete against females. That would be my. You know what?
I feel like how all this is cool and dandy until you start having trans men winning against biological men, and then you're going to see a lot of men saying, "Hold up, now, you're not going to come in this sport and beat me."
You know, if that happens, then if ultimately it came out that, well, the thing is with trans men, are they taking steroids? Are they taking, because then you can't allow that, because then you got an advantage. But I don't think otherwise that would ever happen. But if it did happen, then maybe you start to think, well, okay, maybe we need to have an open category. We would have men, women, male, female, and open. I don't think it would happen that the way you describe it, unless there were steroids. But in terms of last point, people want to see the best athletes in the world. That's why that's why quarterbacks get $40 million a year. That's why top receivers get $10-15 million a year. That's why, the best players in the NBA are getting $50 million a year.
I think
because we want to see that. We want to see it. We'll pay for it.
And
here's my response.
Women's sports are not that popular.
No, because they're not as good. They can't jump as high. They can't throw the ball as hard. They're just not as good. That's the reason. They're just not as good. So and that's okay. What isn't okay is that if you are that good, you get to live that much better than everyone else. So fine, you want to pay, you own a sports team, you want to pay, I don't know, Jalen Brunson. He just got this award, won the NBA trophy, something or other. He's great. He's a great player. He's amazing. You want to pay him $50 million a year? Fine. But you know what the government's going to do? After that first couple of $1 million, we're going to start taking 90%.
Yep.
So he'll live better than most people. He'll live that much better. And the rest of us will all get the benefits. And if you're a woman who's a great basketball player, maybe you get $1 million. You don't get 50, but you'll get to keep more of it than Jalen Brunson will keep of his 50 million. You'll keep a higher percentage. So you'll still live better than most women. And every woman will know that her child will be provided for, that she'll get the health care she needs when she's pregnant. Every woman will know that she can get the birth control she needs if she wants to prevent a birth or she doesn't want to get pregnant. Everyone will know that she'll have enough. And that is, to me, the answer. So we have different skills. Cool. We have different levels of ability. You benefit from your whatever attributes you have, but you don't benefit that much. And if you don't have those attributes, you don't suffer.
I like that. And I'll finish it off with this. I'm talking all this stuff. I also am I have your view, well, not your view, but like similar views when it came to the whole, I don't know if you followed it, but the Monique conversation years ago when she was trying to get a Netflix comedy deal and they didn't want to pay her the same as much like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock and all them. I feel like this: if you're not a good comedian, you shouldn't get what everyone else gets. But it is crazy thinking how much money these comedians get, or these sports players get as well. And I'll leave you with this: I wonder if you saw material conditions change as far as like college becoming free, people having more like access to good paying jobs and things like that, where they don't need to, would you see less people relying on like sports to be a way to make it out of their income situation, where like it being like, hey, we can't have trans women in this sport because this is my daughter's way of making it in her life, or we can't have, or how like men's sport like basketball has now started to become this like, what is it, this legacy thing of where LeBron James is making sure his children get put on the team and things. Do you have less people caring if it is more about the actual talent you have and less about survival?
Absolutely. I think if you don't, I remember I did this when I was doing radio. We had a show on my station called, it was about boxing. I can't remember now what it was called, but it was about boxing. And the guys who did the show would have boxers on, right? They would interview them. And I talked to one, I did a few where I was like a guest host on that show. And I remember asking one of them, would you want your son to box? And they said, absolutely not. It's horrible. You get punched in the head and you get brain damage and all that. And you could talk to some of these guys and you could hear it, right? I mean, they had their mouths running too many times. Same with the NFL. I've heard NFL players say, I don't want my son playing football because they get hurt. Nobody says that about basketball. Basketball's fun. Baseball's fun. I mean, you can get hurt, but it's much less likely and you're not going to get brain damage. So I definitely think that if people had more options, a big reason there's so many black athletes is because they don't have other options.
Yep.
You know, they have fewer options, especially to make so much money. But if the rewards weren't that great to take these huge risks with your body, and B, the costs of not succeeding weren't so steep, then I absolutely think you'd have fewer people vying to be professional athletes. But still some would, because it's fun. Even football hurts, but
the celebrity of it is fun enough.
The celebrity. Tom Brady's father was a doctor. He's from an upper middle class family.
Really?
Other guys like that. And they still want to play because it's, you're a hero and you're the cheerleaders want to date you. I mean, there's a lot of it's a lot of benefits to it too. I just think that it may be different, or we both kind of agree with this. It'd be different if the economics, if it wasn't tied to like economics, it'd be definitely different. The people who we probably see playing the sports may be different than who's playing it or not. And I think also, but I also think there's a mix when you get to these like wealthy sports, whereas like it takes a lot, like golf is a very wealthy person sport. You're not going to see a lot of low income people just like come up the ranks through playing golf, and stuff like that. Hockey, things that require a lot of like upfront money. Definitely. I just wonder what the situation would look like if sports were not seen as a way to
pull you and your family out of poverty, what would it look like for people? It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think even like 40, 50 years ago, it was more like the way you described, because we had a tighter safety net and the salaries weren't so outsized.
Yeah.
You didn't make that much more money if you were in, I think Tom Seaver in the best pitcher in baseball in the 1970s was making 40, 50, maybe $100,000 a year.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a lot. I'm not saying it's not a lot of money, but I mean, at that time it was, but it wasn't that much more. It wasn't making 40 million. So we definitely are seeing, I'm going to look that up. Maybe his salary was a little higher, but it went up during the 70s.
To imagine that they're making just so, you know what though? I wonder, and this is a whole separate conversation, if like the rise of sports in the United States is similar to the rise of like the Roman Empire, sort of like gladiator battles, where it's like, look, we need people's minds focused not on their material lives. Watch something neutral that you can just watch and who cares what happens, all that. But I also say this, while I don't watch things like football, basketball, I watch things like boxing. Like I'll watch the Gladiator. I used to love what is it? American versus Gladiator and shows like that, where it's like actual, I feel like that to me is sports watching. But I also wonder if there's a psychological thing of like getting people out to not think about certain things and to focus on these kind of cultural, bringing people together around sports.
So wait a sec, you like watching these guys beat the crap out of each other?
I do. I feel like it's very entertaining. Like, I don't know if you saw the Jake Paul versus I'm forgetting the other guy's fight on Netflix.
I can't watch that. I hate seeing that. I'm so soft-hearted. I don't like. That's why I
jaw
don't
got
watch
broken.
football after a while. Because as much as I love the athleticism, when those massive hits, it hurts me. I don't like to see that. I don't like to see guys carried off field. That really bothers me. I knew this guy. He was always watching the Octagon. He loved it. I'm like, wow. I'm all right.
It's
I mean, and if you look at those boxers, like who's that guy, Conor McGregor? I mean, he's so brain damaged. If you listen to him talk now, right? Yeah. I mean, he can barely say a sentence.
I mean, you listen to Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather can't read a book. Like he can't read.
Well,
really.
I mean, I don't know that these guys were that sharp to begin with, maybe. But supposedly, I don't know if it's true, Floyd is very bright, right? He's very good with money. Yeah. He's very good business-wise.
But he just can't read. And I'm like,
he's illiterate.
Yeah. And I feel terrible. Like if you're putting yourself in a horrible situation with the hope of that my children don't have to do what I did. So I view the same way that sports prey on poor people to see it as a way to come up. It's similar how the military preys on poor people to say, this is your one way to come up.
All right, before we go, so we talked about McGregor and Floyd, and they did have that fight. And I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what reflects, but that was like the biggest fight ever because it was a black-white thing, right? Like people just wanted to see the black guy and the white guy wail on each other.
They did. And you know what else was too? It was the fact that Floyd Mayweather had never lost a fight, and they were like, I'll be damned if this Irish white man comes over here and makes it the first.
Well, he made a good fight of it.
It did, but especially when Conor McGregor doesn't do boxing, he does the UFC.
Right.
So it was like, you're coming into Floyd Mayweather's territory and you're going to beat him. No. And it's even when Floyd Mayweather fought Jake Paul too. I think they fought, right? Yeah. Was it him or Mike Tyson?
He didn't fight Tyson. Tyson would be too big for Floyd.
Okay. No. Did Tyson fight Jake Paul? Because I feel like there was a Tyson.
Might have.
Jake
that
Paul
sounds
fight.
like sort of like a sideshow type event that you would see.
I mean, also, hey, Mike, what's his name? Floyd Mayweather was the reason that these like lighter weight guys are making as much money as they were doing with boxing, because nobody really watched them. They watched the heavyweights, and now it's like,
but to be fair to McGregor, I mean, if Floyd had gone into the Octagon, he would have gotten his ass.
He would have got whooped. He would have got whooped
because you can't punt. They can't kick. Those boxers don't know how to kick. So
no, Floyd Mayweather can't kick nobody, and he's short too. So he's not getting that far. I mean,
McGregor's so he's so brain damaged now. It's terrible. It really is. But I give him credit. He had the guts to get in there, and he made a fight of it.
Made a lot of money.
Arguably, Floyd kind of carried him, right? That's what people say. I don't know. I didn't watch it. I can't watch. I
Yeah.
can't.
You saw Floyd kind of like keeping it going, and I think his thought is too. I think he makes more money the longer the fights last. So he's like, look, I'm gonna just wear this out, let him wear himself out. But one of the biggest competitions was Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather too. Also, Floyd knows how to create spectacle amongst himself and other people. But I mean, he's also a pro-Zionist too. He came out and said, like, I'm supporting the state of Israel, like Israelis and Jewish people. You always have my support, stuff like that. So
I don't go to Floyd Mayweather for political.
That's my thing
advice.
too. How we have to have this conversation next year too. What is with the rise of? Because I want to find someone for my podcast about this. What is the rise of like celebrities turning this like Trump thing? Because I don't know if you probably saw the whole Nicki Minaj going to the Turning Point USA, and Nicki Minaj, famous rapper, she was on stage with Erica Kurt having a conversation about how Trump is a good person, and she said in the assassin JD Vance, and then everyone paused and was like, oh, I forgot. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Yeah.
I can't, just
celebrities will do celebrities will do. Floyd Mayweather, what's his face? 50 Cent he said, I'll give Zoran Mamdani like $1 million if he just leaves New York.
Did 50's? I thought he was supposed to be more to the left. I thought 50 Cent.
No, 50 Cent is conservative. 50 Cent apparently is buying up like a city in Louisiana so that he can kind of like build his own little like corporate city and use it. So yeah, now 50 Cent is just as bad as Jay-Z, just as bad as
what Kanye.
I don't want to say just about. Yeah, Kanye. I think Kanye honestly is just the more vocal one. Like, I think Kanye is just more outwardly vocal. I think a lot of them probably have his same. I don't know.
Well, we shouldn't just focus on black entertainers. I mean, people like Kid Rock are just despicable, and Ted Nugent. I don't know if I think he's a Republican. A lot of the country music world is so.
A lot of them aren't Republicans. Yeah, I feel like they're kind of. This is their normal thing, and I'll say this: rappers very conservative when it comes to finances. They are very. Also, Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a very good and bad legacy when it comes to rappers and stuff. Where it used to be rap music, he would get referenced a lot in rap music.
Well, the rap art form is problematic. I mean, there's a lot of misogyny and a lot of violence. Where
there's a lot of everything.
They make it look. What is it? Where you
glorifying it?
Glorify. Yeah.
Glorify violence, homophobia, killing, shooting, all that. But put it to a fun beat, and we can have a good time.
Yeah. See, again, that's the same thing, man. I'm not into that. I do like. There's a few rap songs I like Gangster's Paradise. There are things like I listen to. I don't think Eminem has a great voice exactly, but sort of catchy. Outkast. I don't know if they're quite rap.
Yeah.
Are they rap?
No, they are.
Okay.
Andre 3000 is regarded as one of the like top level rappers, one of like the most lyrical.
Yeah. Well, there's stuff I can listen to, but generally, but that's not really so misogynistic either.
Nah, Outkast wasn't as. I know Andre 3000 wasn't. I don't know about Big Boy or not, but I know Andre 3000 isn't as misogynistic. I mean, Common now, different than a old school Common. Yeah, so there's rappers who are good, who are bad, but I want to do one about the rightward shift towards from certain rappers towards, or just entertainers, going that way. I mean, hey, you look at Taylor Swift. She's kind of Republican coded now, or what's his face, Sydney Sweeney, and all them.
Yeah. Have a great break, Carlos, and I will see you next year. Maybe talk to you before then, but we'll see you on Halitics next year. I'll be back tomorrow, folks. Thanks so much for being part of Halitics. We'll have Wally on tomorrow, and then probably just Hal Wednesday. Have a great afternoon.